Hello again, everybody. We are back in Arizona this week with some new property up in the northeast part of the state in Apache County. Specifically, people, we're going to be talking about the Concho Valley Subdivision, which occupies most of the residential land in and around the town of Concho, Arizona, as well as nearby Lake Concho. Now, it should be noted, guys, that as is our custom when we have a number of like-type parcels for sale in a small geographic region, the video you're watching right now is going to be more of a subdivision-specific video rather than a property-specific video, and will be posted on every listing page for property that we have in this region from now until the end of time. And of course, as always, guys, we recommend that for those of you interested in buying land in this region who want to dig a little deeper into the features of a specific property, who want to compare and contrast one against another that we have in inventory, we encourage you, as always, to review the property-specific notes found here on the listing page, as well as the photo gallery at the bottom of the page, which of course will feature photos from the specific parcel, and in turn will help to give you better insight into road conditions, utilities, neighbors, so on and so forth. Now, it bears noting, guys, that because this subdivision is so sprawling, there will actually be greater difference between individual parcels than we normally experience in subdivisions like this. Because of this, wherever a property is so unique or has some feature that is so exceptional or merits further discussion, we will, as always, include an additional insights video just here above the photo gallery. So for those of you who can't get enough of my voice after watching the first video at the top of the page, you'll be able to scroll down here and listen to even more of my mellifluous narration. With all that said, people, let's go to the map and show you exactly where these properties are. So, as noted, guys, we're up here in Apache County, which hugs the New Mexico border and most of the eastern end of Arizona. Of course, Apache County is a very rural county. You've got Navajo Nation tribal land occupying most of the northern half. You've got the Petrified Forest National Park taking up a good chunk of land in the center, and the Apache Sitgraves National Forest in the south. And in between all that, you've got thousands and thousands of acres of rural residential land. So the subdivision we're talking about today is the Concho Valley Subdivision, and it's located in one of the few real towns you'll find in this rural county, namely the town of, yes, you guessed it, Concho. Now, as mentioned earlier, this is a sprawling subdivision with a number of units of land, which tends to occupy all the area that you see outlined here on the map. Of course, owning land in this region means that you've got the Concho Lake right here in your backyard. Now, this is not a huge lake. You can take advantage of some boating, fishing, general relaxation, but this is not necessarily a body of water on which you're going to be doing any jet skiing, okay? Nonetheless, it's a nice attraction, sits in very close proximity to all the land here within this subdivision. Now, of course, for anybody who's worried about being too removed from major stores or groceries or supplies, you'll be glad to know that owning land out here puts you in pretty close proximity to the county seat of St. John's, which boasts a population of roughly 3,500 people and which is located about 20 minutes east here along State Road 61. And while the town of Concho has got a gas station, post office, library, and Family Dollar, it's in nearby St. John's where you'll be able to access everything from government services to medical facilities to food, hardware, drug, and the all-important feed stores. Now, of course, it should be noted, guys, that if you're buying any land in this region, you're going to develop it. We always like to let our buyers know where the nearest big box stores are, such as Walmart and Home Depot, because most likely you'll need those stores when you're building up the property. So I want to direct your attention back here to the map just to show you that the town of Sholo over here in nearby Navajo County is located only about 30 minutes from this Concho Valley subdivision. And of course, Sholo's got a population of about 12,000 and hence has even greater amenities you'll be able to access, such as the Summit Healthcare Medical Center, the regional airport, and of course, plenty of fast food restaurants, grocery stores, pharmacies, and of course, Walmart and Home Depot. With all that said, people, this is normally the part of the video where I like to talk about the land that you find in the region and what the roads are like and access to utilities and so on and so forth. As I pointed out earlier, however, the subdivision occupies a lot of land, and unlike a lot of subdivisions that we encounter, it's been settled in very different ways. So, for instance, in the properties we're listing today, and likely what we'll have in the future, you'll find land in developed regions with homes around them like this, and you'll find ones in really remote parts of the subdivision with no nearby development. Additionally, some have really good road access, some less so. Some have power at the lot line, some have power and underground utilities, and some have neither. And of course, each property has its own appeal for different buyers. So because there's so many differences between these lots, I'm going to leave those details for an additional video that we'll post above the photo gallery on each page. And I'm going to like to talk instead about the things all these properties have in common, which is the zoning, the covenants, and the restrictions. So, there's a lot of people I see selling land in Apache County who represent this entire region as no zoning, live in your RV, do whatever you want, so on and so forth. And that may be true in certain subdivisions in certain parts of the county. In the Concho Valley subdivision, however, you're talking about a region that was created with covenants and restrictions and which is subject to formal zoning. And there's a lot of times where we see land like this that still looks as if people are doing and building whatever they want and there's no consequence to it. Based on the photos I've seen of this region, however, that does not seem to be the case here. So let's run through the basics, which we have conveniently enumerated here on the listing page. So first, this region has no HOA and no annual dues. Next, as noted, there were covenants and restrictions written when the subdivision was first created. That said, these are what we like to call, quote, reasonable, logical, good neighbor restrictions, which are not too strict and which anyone, with the exception of real jerks, should be able to follow pretty easily. Of course, as always, guys, if you'd like to get a sense of exactly what those restrictions may be, just come down here, click this link, and it will take you to this helpful PDF, which is the covenants and restrictions. And it should be noted, guys, if you read through this, you're going to see a lot of the standard stuff about setbacks, trash disposal, land being used only for residential and not business purposes, not parking a bunch of junk cars on the lots, so on and the like. Now, a couple quick things that jump out at us here, which we do want to make you aware of. First, there is a 12-month time limit on building from the time of groundbreaking. So let's be clear, guys. Buy the land, do nothing with it for the first 100 years, nobody cares. But once you get a building permit and you stick a shovel in the ground, that theoretically is when the clock starts. What happens at 12 months and 1 day? Probably nothing. But the point is, they write it out somewhere so as to make sure that people don't leave a half-built eyesore on the property for 5 years, driving down home values in the region. Next, any structure built on the land must be a minimum of 900 square feet and no taller than 35 feet in height. So basically 1 or 2-story homes, and depending on your definition of a tiny home, you may be able to do that as well. Now, of course, if you want to build something smaller or taller, this may not be the region for you. Next, mobile homes are acceptable as long as they are 40 feet in length and 12 feet in width. I don't have a lot of personal experience with mobile homes, but I'm guessing that's fairly standard for that type of dwelling. And finally, RVs and travel trailers may be used recreationally for a period of up to 90 days or as a temporary dwelling with a building permit. And for the record, guys, 90 days is basically the whole summer, so I think 90 is a pretty good, pretty reasonable number for those of you who don't want to develop the land immediately, but who would like to use it recreationally. Next, let's talk about zoning. So this is a region where I tend to believe the covenants may be more relevant than the zoning, as in they would supersede some things that zoning might allow. Whatever the case, as we have written up here on the listing page, this region is zoned agricultural general, a provision which, quote, provides for the continuation of agricultural, recreational, limited residential, and other land uses that are consistent with rural land areas. So this provision allows for the construction and use of single-family residences, mobile and modular homes, but it also allows for the breeding, raising, and training of certain livestock, including horses, cattle, sheep, and goats. Interested in learning more about the Agricultural General Zoning Ordinance, and who wouldn't be curious about such a thing? You can come down here, click this link, and it will take you to this PDF, which, of course, is an excerpt from the zoning ordinance. Of course, as always, guys, we recommend that if you do have any questions about this, it's always best to reach out to the county directly, specifically the Planning and Zoning Office, which will always know more about this topic than we do. So with all that said, people, if you would like to purchase any of the Concho Valley properties that we have listed for under $10,000, you'll be glad to know that we have multiple payment options for you. So if you come up here to the top of the page, click this Buy Now button. It'll take you to this secure checkout. Of course, we do not anticipate that the average person can charge $7,500 on a credit card in one shot, or that the average person would want to. So we ask for a non-refundable, people, let me say it again, non-refundable earnest money deposit of $500 just to kind of kick off the process. You give us the legal name for deed, tax address, and down here, agree to the terms of service. Click Next, and on the very next page, you can enter credit or debit card information to complete the purchase. Now, guys, we do actually provide you with a little bit of an option here. When we get north of $10,000 on properties, we like to recommend to our buyers closing through a title company. When we are south of $10,000, we recommend just letting us write and record the deed for you, as it'll be cheaper and easier. That said, this is the kind of price point where I could understand people being sensitive about that. Maybe you want title insurance, maybe you want to close through a title company. So right here on this page, in this helpful drop-down, we ask the question here, how do you want to fund and close this purchase? Click the drop-down and you'll be presented with two options, credit or debit card, seller, that's us, pays the closing costs, or title escrow, buyer, that's you, pays the closing costs. Or if you want to talk to us more before you decide, of course you can click need more information before I decide. Whatever the case, those options are available. Point being, guys, you put down the $500 and then we will either close through a title company or we will send you a payment link to pay the remaining balance with a credit or debit card, wire transfer, cashier's check, or whatever your little heart desires. Now, additionally, guys, the second way you can purchase this property is through a payment plan or terms option. And if you click this checkout right here, it'll take you to this secure page where we will ask for only the down payment, and then we'll set up a recurring payment plan to be charged once a month. Now, of course, we don't do a lot of financing on the website, but when we have properties like this where a potential buyer is probably going to have to develop the land from scratch, we do like to give you the option to finance, so it does make it a little more affordable and so you can own the land while you are simultaneously developing it, paying for both at once. Anyway, guys, much like the other form I showed you, on this one we require the same information, legal name for deed, tax address, and then once again agree to the terms of service, and then you can place that deposit. Now, let's pretend for 2 seconds that I went too fast through some of that and you would like to learn more about this process. Fortunately, guys, we got the payment options noted down here on the listing page. This enumerates the various processes I just discussed. Of course, you got the cash option, number 1, the title escrow option, number 2, with these helpful links right here to some different pages on our website. The first one's called How It Works, Buying From Us. This is what that page looks like, and it goes into more detail on the purchasing process. And additionally, we've got Title Escrow FAQ down here. If you do want to go that route, but you're not terribly familiar with the process, this page will answer any conceivable question you could have, including everything from benefits to cost to schedule to logistics. And additionally, guys, if you do want to take advantage of that third option and purchase this by putting down a deposit and paying the balance on the property slowly over time, you'll be glad to know that we discussed that process here, and that we are offering 180 days same as cash. And for those of you saying, hey, Hemingway, I'm not going to put down any money till I know what I'm being asked to sign. Well, fortunately, people, we have a link, a very helpful link right here. You click that, and it'll take you to a generic version of our standard land contract for properties in this subdivision. And this will enumerate the various terms of the agreement, including monthly payments, late payments, who's responsible for new property taxes, so on and so forth. But the 180 days, same as cash, as you can see, is reiterated right here. Whatever the case, you can read through this and get to familiarize yourself with all the financial elements of the contract and everything that you would be responsible for as the buyer. Of course, keep in mind, guys, we do not deed the property into your name until such time as the balance has been paid in full, which means that this contract is the document that between now and that time demonstrates your, quote, equitable interest in the land. In conclusion, people, when we were scouting Apache County trying to find some good property to offer you guys, I was looking for land that had utilities, it was close to a town, close to some kind of attraction, and you don't find a lot of that in Apache County. Fortunately, however, this Concho Valley subdivision really checked all those boxes. As noted, it's about 20 minutes outside St. John's, 30 minutes outside Show Low, and of course you got the Concho Lake really right here in your backyard. So, for those of you looking for rural land in eastern Arizona that's not too far removed from civilization, who want an ability to develop something in a residential region with respectable neighbors and nice-looking homes, but that still has a good deal of privacy in a nice country setting, I think these are really worth checking out. Anyway, I hope you guys agree, and as always, thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next video.